Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And if you've listened to my programs for a while, you know that we do talk a lot about business tactics, business strategies, how to start a business, all of those things. But I also believe that if what is going on in our heads, our hearts, and our souls is not right, and going in the right direction, it's not going to matter what business tactics we use, what strategies we use, any of those things, because we will not be successful. But when we have those things going in the right direction, then that's going to help us to truly be successful in our business and in our life. And so I'm so excited today to welcome my guest because we're going to be talking exactly about that. So please join me in welcoming Jeanine Thompson to our program today. Welcome, Jeanine. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are going to have so much fun, and hopefully everyone is going to learn so much. I know I've already learned just from the little bit of time speaking with you. So, we really are going to have a great time. But let me tell people a little bit about you. So Jeanine Thompson is a transformational coach, speaker, and author whose breadth of knowledge and experience spans multiple disciplines and professional expressions, from clinical psychotherapy to global business to advancing spiritual growth. At the core of her diverse career is a passionate dedication to helping individuals live their highest potentiality. Remember that, folks. She shares her journey and how others can reach their full potential in her first book, 911 from Your Soul. For nearly a decade, Jeanine led a thriving evidence-based psychotherapy practice treating the range of anxiety disorders. She was honored to guide her clients' transformations and heightened levels of well-being, joy, and harmony. A Reiki Master and former registered yoga teacher, she has a deep reverence for the power of energy and the body's innate wisdom. She holds a Master of Social Work and numerous certifications, including Certified High Performance Coach and Rapid Transformational Therapy Practitioner. Jeanine was personally mentored by renowned transformational expert Marcy Sminoff and trains yearly with the High Performance Institute, founded by Brendan Burchard. She is insatiably curious and loves to engage in immersive studies on vast perspectives to advance personal and business mastery. Holy schmoly. See, we're going to have a lot of fun. So again, Jeanine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I always like to find out from my guests how they got to where they are today. And I think it's especially important for us to know because you do have such a wide and varied career, but it all has dovetailed into who you are today. So give us just a little bit of knowledge about how you discovered this as your passion in life.
Well, Deb, I marvel at the utter intelligence of life. Mm-hmm. And these vital experiences are key inflection points that really are significant shaping stones, right? Mm-hmm. That help us understand who we are becoming and what's next for us in life. Mm-hmm. So in fifth grade, I went to work with my Aunt Judy, and she was a psychotherapist. And that day I decided, you know what? I want to be a psychotherapist. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, in fifth grade, I had no clue what they actually did. I think I actually wanted to be like her because even in my 10-year-old self, I could see the impact she was having as we walked down the hall and etc. Very similarly, so I was a evidence-based psychotherapist for a decade. And during that time, I was interviewed by a researcher on, I did psychiatric emergency room diagnostics. And at the end of the interview, she said, someday I'll be back for you. And I thought, oh, there's like no way this researcher will even remember who I am. And sure enough, 4 years later, she called me and said, hey, I want you to come and work for this large specialty consumer retailer. And I was antsy and restless and looking for what was next. And voila, that, launched my business career for 12 years, where I led high potential programs, leadership development, and was the head of international HR. Similarly, during that time, I was getting restless again. 10 years seems to be about my mark in each of the things. And I had an opportunity to voluntarily leave that role through a major voluntary reduction program that they were offering, that I had no desire at the time or no inkling I would take. And I learned, many of the people that I loved to be working with were going to take the buyout. So the end of the 14 days, I made the same decision. And all along, Deb, there were clues. There were important earth travelers that showed up at the perfect moment that introduced the next coming. And there was this seeking that I think so many of your listeners might relate to. There's got to be something more to life. There's something missing. My life looks great. I had a wonderful family, a big job, fun travel, supposedly successful, right? According to how externally it's defined. And yet something was missing.
Right.
That led me on the search to yoga and Reiki and studying sacred text and sites. And it all brought me back home, inward to my soul, where I believe the true riches, the meaning, the purpose, the joy, the fulfillment you seek can only be revealed.
I love it. And I think when we see people who we know are unhappy, or ourselves, it is that they are thinking it's more. And, and how many times do we look at somebody and think they have it all, right?
Exactly.
Whether it's the big car, the 2.5 kids and, one dog, one cat, the big house, all of those things. And then when we discover, that they're deeply unhappy, one of our thoughts is, well, what's wrong with them? And of course, there's nothing wrong with them, but they are always searching because they feel the same way. We, as you said, they know we have all of this, but
yes, yeah. And sometimes I have to say, for me, I actually wasn't unhappy. I feel so blessed. These paths that I've been able to walk professionally. It was just this restlessness and this yearning, and I couldn't gratitude it away, right? And for me, that was my 911 for my soul, this searching, this not knowing what was next or what the purpose of life was. For other people, it might look different. Sometimes people are experiencing something in their life, a familiar identity, their job, their health, a relationship has been shaken or taken away or stripped away in some respect. Others just feel flat. There's no juice. They should be happy, but not.
Right.
No?
Yeah, they go,
for others, inside, they know they're playing smaller than what they're capable of. They've got this sense, this dream, and it's either not the right time, or what if they fail, or what if they look foolish? So 911s can look so different for everyone. But at the core, there's an invitation to reconnect with parts of yourself you've lost sight of along the way.
Right.
Or maybe you didn't even know existed.
Right. And unfortunately, we see a lot of times where destructive behavior comes in, when they know something's not right or missing or whatever, and they try to fill that with something else. Get addictions obviously are the biggest things with, gambling, alcohol, drugs, all of those things. I was talking with another guest who works with high performing men, and he knows his niche, and so high performing men who are struggling primarily with their marriages. And he's, and he said one of the things that is trending now is many high achieving men are addicted to porn, because again, there's something that they're just trying to fill, to find, to whatever. And they're obviously going about it in the wrong way, as opposed to, as you show, listening to your soul. What is it that your soul needs? Your soul doesn't need alcohol. It doesn't need, fast cars. Well, we might want fast cars, but, but it doesn't, your soul doesn't need those things. Yeah. So let's take just a tiny step back. And because I want to know your definition, of course, it varies for every person, but what is your definition of soul?
Soul to me is the part of you that knows the experiences that you're going to have in life. It knows where you're headed and why. It is the part of you that when you squelch your truth, you know it. Right. You absolutely know it. It's the part of you that can create and realize skills, capabilities, capacities, has access to all of the intelligence and wisdom available that far supersedes access that we have available only when we're operating from our humanness. I believe in the beauty of the and. We are spiritual beings traversing in a wonder suit. So we're soul and we're human. And it's an eternal energetic essence that was here before you came into the earth suit, will be here after you leave the physical vessel. And to me, it's less important about the word. Some people might call it entelechy. Aristotle and the Greeks explored this notion of a seed of potential. It is the entelechy of an acorn seed to become an oak tree. It's the entelechy of a caterpillar to become a butterfly. Well, you too have an entelechy, a seed of potential of who you are meant to become. So whatever you call it, it's more this experience that inside, not in our head brain. We've got three brains, our gut brain, our heart brain, our head brain. Right. Within this heart's intelligence is the will and the knowledge of soul. And that is often the potential, the love, the meaning, the matter that many of my business leaders have left on the table prior to meeting. Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the, I'm going to say, damage to our soul starts when we're very young, with parents saying, you can't do that. Or teachers saying, oh, no, you can't do that. And many times that comes from a place of love. They're trying to protect us, but it's also based many times on their own experiences, and so they're wanting to protect us from going through what they went through. But, but when we're little and we're told and unfortunately this also, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not enough. When we're told that when we're little, it just has such profound effects. And so, how do you work with people to get them to go into that Wayback Machine to really talk to that poor little inner child who just needed to be told you are enough?
Yeah. So I make a couple of distinctions when I'm working with people. I make a distinction of what I call our conditioned self or our learned self. What were the beliefs, the biases, the filters that influence how we tell the narrative of ourselves? We have 70,000 thoughts a day, and And the I am not enough is the number one limiting belief for everyone. I have this from CEOs to the amazing core team of operators, in an organization. And so I make a distinguishment between that earth view that's informed by our conditioned self, that's in our humanness. I believe that soul is pure love. No matter what you've been through, that is purely whole. So I don't think the soul gets damaged. I think the humanness does.
Okay.
And we can learn how to distinguish, Jesus, that my false self talking. Sometimes I'll joke at 5 a.m. It's like, okay, Toms, is that your 5 a.m. false self? Or is that the truth of who you are? Because I know when I lead from my soul, the soul's voice sounds like, you've got this. You know how to do this.
Might be a little scared, but
yes, you get to feel afraid. I mean, that's natural. To some degrees, it's very healthy. But essentially, go ahead and place a bet on yourself. I'm with you. You never travel alone. When we're in our conditioned view of mind, it sounds like, no way.
Right.
I am not going to put myself out there on the line. Either I know what happened last time, or the organization isn't ready for it, or my family won't like it, or my community. We have.
It's that old negative Nelly, right?
It really is. So how I treat that, sometimes we'll work on some cognitive restructuring or neuro-linguistic programming. Sometimes I'll do hypnotherapy. I'm a certified RTT, rapid transformational therapy practitioner. So sometimes we'll go in and hear what the subconscious has to say. That's 95% of what we do per day is dictated by that. And then we create recoding tapes. So for 21 days, we can create new neuroplasticity. So some of it has to do with that. But honestly, once you learn some of these tools and strategies that helps you anchor in your soul view, that's typically enough that you can reclaim the truth of who you are, even if you don't believe it. See, that's the beautiful thing. You don't have to believe in soul. You don't have to believe this isn't about religion. I do happen to believe there's a great mystery in life and something so much bigger than us going on. But it's more about, are you willing? Are you willing to at least just table how you think about this, how you feel about it? And are you willing to explore some of these practices, some that feel super grounded, some that feel out there, like, really? And I'm like, yep,
you want me to do what?
Yes, exactly. Let's just give it, let's test and try. Let's give it a spin. And every time my clients are blown away, not only by what that opens up for them, when we create space even to tune in to our highest nature.
Right. So, of course, the first step, in my mind at least, is that somebody has to acknowledge that they have, I hate to use the word, an issue, a problem, but like we said, they know there's something more.
Yeah.
So, how, and it's like the old, they say with alcoholism, if the person does not want to stop drinking, they're not going to stop drinking. We can tell them all of those, everybody, we can tell you cigarettes are bad for you, cigarettes are bad for you, but unless you want to stop smoking, you're not going to stop smoking. So how is it that someone takes that first step and says, I am searching, I need more?
Yeah.
You talk about the 911. So what does that mean?
Yeah. What does 911 mean?
Well, in this, 911 is, oh my gosh, emergency, right?
Yeah.
But so when it's your soul saying it, how do you even recognize it and know, I better pay attention to this?
It's by some of those things that I described, like there is, despite thinking that your life should be, it is perfect, or it's good enough, or other people think that you have everything. Despite all of that appearance or point of view externally, inside there's disharmony.
Right.
There's, when you're at work, you're daydreaming, you want to be somewhere else. You know, so there's this yearning, this restlessness. There's got to be something more to life. The juice falling flat, some part of your life is shaken up. I think sometimes life speaks through challenge or crisis. And it's actually this invitation saying, Yoo-hoo, there's a greater possibility for you, or sometimes through you. Because I believe sometimes we go through stuff in life because we will become the lighthouse for someone else. Right. So it's something's off course and you know it. And so honestly, for most people, when they come to me, they will just say, there's a gap. There's a gap between what is and what I'd like to be. And can you help me?
Right.
Most of them come all on their own. Other times, people have to get not the whisper, a brick gets dropped.
The smack.
Yep. And then it's about permission to not choose the conditioned view of shame, to say, you know, that inside inner critic that might say, you idiot, you knew better, you could see this coming. So we need to suspend that conditioned view and just say, all right, here's where I am, and I'm going to give myself permission. You know, I'm going to give myself permission that this doesn't have to be right or wrong, good or bad, or there's something wrong with me. We're human too.
Right.
And so to give yourself permission to explore, what the heck is this?
Right.
What might it mean, and where do I go?
Right.
But I also think that there's something else here, Deb, which is, I think that there is an unexplainable divine timing to Earth School, to who we meet on this physical canvas of life, to our own readiness. Like if somebody would have told me 30 years ago, when I was navigating significant health concerns with both of my babies, or later when I was going through a divorce, or later or at 15 when two of my friends died a year and a half apart. If somebody would have told me then, Jeanine, there's this part of you that's your highest nature, it's actually who you are, connect in with that, and I would have looked at them, rolled my eyes, and said, no flipping way.
Right.
I just wasn't ready. So I think part of this, Deb, for some of your listeners, is they'll know, like I always say, our body truth precedes our mind lies. So your mind may say, I'm not ready, but maybe there's something that I or Deb have said where you feel breath again, where you feel a bit of resonance, like maybe I'm willing to go explore this. That we can't rush. I think our souls actually know our own timing and our own pathway.
Right. Yeah, you know, we see, I'm on Facebook a lot, and one of the things that I see there, once every couple months or so, is the meme that says, you know, if you could go back to your 16-year-old self, what would you tell them? And I never know. I mean, you know, and it's or it's something pithy like, it'll be all right. You know, because oh gosh, 16 was not a fun age. But you know, that is part of it. You know, we if we could go back and tell that, you know, little person, young person, you know, and I think a lot of times they're looking for, you know, more things like, you know, don't marry this person, or you know, all of those things. But I also believe that we are who we are today because of everything that happened to us in our past, good and bad. You know, hopefully we learned, okay, that stove is hot. Don't put our hand on that again, but we do anyway, right? Or wet paint, right? How many times do we reach out and touch wet paint and go, oh, but the bad things have shaped us just as much as the good things, and so when people say, hey, I'd go back and tell my younger self, don't do this, or make sure you do this, we're giving ourselves a disservice, because we are who we are today because of all of those.
We are. And I think that every person, every experience, every thought, every feeling, every breath, all the joys, all the sorrows are really part of who we are today, who we're going to be becoming, and our unique gift and contribution to the music, the bigger mosaic, of in our own body and in the body of life. If I were to go back, I would just simply hold my younger self rather tenderly and say, always remember you are loved. You never travel alone. Everything you will meet and encounter, all you seek is within. And I know it wouldn't probably register to my 16-year-old self, but I would want them to know that you're loved no matter what. You are loved, and you are always loved. That's such a different message than the vast majority of people grew up with, that you are enough just as you are. You're going to make gorgeous choices, and oh my gosh, you're going to have
what the heck?
a ton of messy moments, like, I was not the best version of me, little light. And how about if we just embrace that and say, that's the fullness of who we are. We're human and divine, and we are imperfectly perfect.
Somebody told me one time, give yourself grace. And I really liked that, because it's saying, it's okay. The stuff you did wrong, and I'm putting that in the air quotes, it's still going to be okay.
I think grace is one of the most important, as Carolyn Miss would say, jewels or treasures in life. I think that it is something on a daily basis we need to offer ourselves, because if we're not mindful, our conditioned self, those 70,000 thoughts that create all sorts of stories, will always make us feel insufficient. But when we just for a moment say, gosh, what would my soul, or what would the higher version of me, whatever, however you go about it, offer me? I'd love for you to close your eyes and just for a moment shower yourself with grace, and know that all is well, even when it appears like you're in the storm of your life.
And it is okay for us to acknowledge, that did not go the way we wanted it to go. And no matter what it is, job, love, but I also think about it, I think, how boring would it be if we didn't have some of those negatives? Because it does really make you appreciate the positives. But if you just sail through life, it's one of the things, and I don't watch these shows, but I see, the commercials for them are, the TV programs of the kids whose parents are millionaires, billionaires. These children have never had to work for anything. They're never going to probably have to want for anything. It's all, the saying used to be, maybe still is, born with a silver spoon. And so it's, they obviously have different experiences. They never had to do, the working, after school, or working 3 jobs just to make sure that you eat. And so they do have a lot more, but they also obviously have a lot of negatives that we just never see.
We don't know them. I believe everybody has had their set of growth invitations in life. We just don't know them.
And and it's the outward judging is, of course, one of the things, and it gets us every time, right? And I remember years, years ago when we were planning our 10-year high school reunion. And of course, you've now known me for a little over 30 minutes. You can probably tell I was one of the people in charge, right? Now I grew up in the mountains of Colorado, very small class. We had 32 that graduated. And so, we're planning this, and one of the things, and you always have these things at reunions, who came the furthest, all of those various things, right? And you have these little prizes. And one of the people who was coordinating this with me wanted to do who's the most successful. And even at what I would have been 28, 29 years old, I went, no. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, success is individual. We all know what success means to us, just kind of like we know what soul means to us, all of those things. But I did ask her, I said, so what do you define success as? For her, it was strictly money. Who makes the most? And I said, oh no, I said, because I knew pretty much out of those 32 who made the most. And I also knew that person was the most unhappy. And I said, I also know that our classmate who has 4 kids and kind of struggles every day, but to see the joy in her with her kids, I would say she was the most successful. And so, when we let the world start giving us those definitions, I think that's where we really have a lot of difficulties. But it's just human nature. I mean, when we're babies, we look to our parents for approval. You took your first 2 steps. You look, did they see? Are they proud? All of those things. And so that conditioning of back to looking in at your soul is just a challenge.
For sure. We're often taught that the power resides outside of us. Go to the expert. In some religions, it's outside. When I was little, I thought it was up in the sky outside of me rather than within, right? Rely on consensus and what others around us are saying. So rarely are we taught, hey, the first person that you should seek counsel from is your inner genius. Start first within. If you want to get some outside perspectives, outstanding. I'm a researcher. I love looking at this.
Yeah. And there are things that you definitely need to research because we don't know everything, right?
Well, I think part of us does. So that's the, we can do that research, but ultimately if we tune inward, through, I can talk about a couple of practices that will be tangible for your folks. But ultimately, when we tune inward, we can discern out of which of the paths, either externally or internally, will know our own resonance. Because what's right for some person, there might be a proven practice that's absolutely established for someone else, whether it's honestly a best practice in business, if it's a health practice, a relationship practice, whatever it is. But maybe it's not for you. It's a noisy world right now. Everybody's got a point of view, lots of hype.
And there's 11 gazillion internet websites where you can,
But I believe within we actually have access to our own inner genius, to the collective universal mind or the collective inner genius. It's all just energy after all. That's proven. And
it's knowing where and how to tap into all of that.
So maybe we could talk about a couple of those things.
Yes.
This is one of those practices that is referred to a lot in my book. And to me, the definition of stillness is shifting your awareness from your 70K, that busy brain,
right?
Exactly, to the core of your being. One hand on heart center, one hand near your belly button. Like close your eyes and join deliberately the rhythm of your breath. Like actually feel your belly expand, feel it fall, feel it expand. Just be with this vital life force of breath that A, keeps you alive, but B, is access to this gateway of the inner genius or the potentiality. Now, if you're resistant, as I was, I'm like,
oh, and you can tell still and me are not synonymous.
Well, that's the story we tell ourselves. So that's part of it. We've told ourselves,
right.
I told myself, I'm going to plane 200,000 to 300,000 miles a year. There's no way I can be still. And even if I could, I don't have time.
Right. Who has time for that? I'm busy.
So I'm going to challenge every single one of you in the same way I had to challenge myself. Stillness is the most natural thing we can do. We have trained ourselves out of it. We tell ourselves a story every day we can't do it. Each one of you listening, set your phone for 30 seconds. Close your eyes. We follow touch in the body. So as soon as you touch your heart center, touch your belly, you bring that awareness downward. And if you join, you feel the breath like, wow, what does it feel like? And just feel it. Over time, you will get better at it. And every time that busy brain says, oops, pick this up at the store, you've got to call so-and-so at work or whatever your thing is, all I want you to say is noted. And in that 30 seconds, if 20 times you have to say noted, that's okay. It was a success because you did it. We all have 30 seconds. Even if you're running late for another meeting, 30 seconds isn't going to make or break it. However, when we learn to be in stillness, not only do we get access to this delicious wisdom, we shut our eyes and the bombarding of information, just for a little while, we can rest and renew. And in that stillness, we can choose a higher quality thought, a higher quality action. We emerge as a better version for us on our next experience, whatever it is.
Right.
So I encourage everybody just to be still with their breath and then increase your periods of time.
Right.
But you also can achieve that stillness through a freeing run. If you're one of those, because part of stillness is we soften and we lose our busy mind. We lose the earth narrative, our earth view. So that might be a freeing run. You might love to dance. You might love music. Start there. Honors that as a gateway into the silence of your breath. Or nature. Nature is one of the most natural ways we get lost in a sunset. Notice that. Or a breeze, or watching the squirrels play tag outside. And while we steep our five senses, while we immerse it into this life force of nature, we've lost our busy mind. That too becomes a gateway to inspired creativity. Right? So this is stuff business leaders use all the time. And I love it. They might not have described it in the same way that I did. The lady, Sarah, I can't think of her name, the Spanx creator, that she lived 6 or 7 minutes from work, but every day she took a path that was almost up to an hour so she could just lose herself. And that was her creative space. Right. So we can enter this inner genius in many, many ways, but most of us have to change our narratives. And over time, even if you're a runner or a painter or a dancer, I want you to do the and. I'm the beauty of the and girl. I want you to minimally every single day integrate 30 seconds to 2 minutes of just being with your breath.
Right.
I do it on sessions with clients. They're like, wow, they were just racing from back to back to back to back meetings. And they're a bit blown away and surprised by how just conscious breath shifted their whole physical, their biologic, parasympathetic, and sympathetic response. They dialed down. It's a game changer.
Right. Well, and it does have physical ramifications also. One of the biggest is your blood pressure.
We know it, cortisol, blood pressure. Absolutely.
I remember I shared with you, before the start of the program, I'm in cancer treatment. Whatever. But I was at treatment one time and, just kind of sitting there in my chair. And it's funny, so the chair reclines, it vibrates, it heats up, and you have warm blankies. And I always tell them, I'm sorry, when's my pedicure start?
Yeah.
But so I'm just kind of there vegging out. And the ladies on either side of me got into a political discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And one was for one party, one was for the other party. And then they were going at each other. And I was this, person in the middle. And when you're done with these treatments, one of the things they do is they take your vitals. They need to make sure you're okay before they can send you off into the world again. And so they took my blood pressure, and she said, you can't go. Your blood pressure is way too high.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never said a word during any of this. I was just in the middle of it. And so I told her, I said, give me a couple minutes. And so she wandered off, and I closed my eyes. And by then the discussion was done, so that helped. But I closed my eyes and I just focused on my breathing. And, and in 2 or 3 minutes, I brought my blood pressure back down to normal. And it really, and they were just amazed. And I said, that's a pretty easy thing for people to do, but yeah, because, I'd gone, as they were discussing, and I was just internally. And so, just that process of breathing and focusing on that breathing. So not thinking about what they were talking about or anything like that, just brought my blood pressure down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how powerful we are. Mm-hmm. With a simple joining of the breath, mm-hmm. we actually can alter our biology, mm-hmm. our epigenetics, mm-hmm. so many things. So there's always, I'm still a nerd. I love science. Mm-hmm. I research it all. Mm-hmm. And I think there's I use a lot of High Performance Institute mm-hmm. practices in my coaching practice mm-hmm. as well that are proven to be effective mm-hmm. to advance, mm-hmm. whether it's productivity, influence, mm-hmm. courage, etc. Mm-hmm. And I want people to tap into a greater possibility of who they actually already are. Mm-hmm. Right. Breath becomes one of those amazing ways.
And having those periods of stillness. Mm-hmm. One of the favorite things I like to do now, we live in Atlanta. So there's mm-hmm. always noise, right? When you're outside, and we're very close to a hospital. We're very close to major roads. And so there's always traffic noise, sirens, all of these things. But I go and I sit on our deck and I focus, close my eyes, that somehow seems to, and I listen for how many different bird calls can I hear, because there's a forest behind us. Yes. And it's amazing how when I'm focused on the bird sounds, the sirens, the traffic, they're gone. Because I'm listening for those bird sounds. And of course, when I'm listening for that, then my mind's not thinking on other things. And it is, it is difficult for me to be still. And so I like finding ways to basically trick my brain into being calm for a while.
Yes. And we actually can choose the nature of our energy. Mm-hmm. And that's what you described there, that mm-hmm. despite being in a bustling city mm-hmm. where there's a cacophony of mm-hmm. probably sirens and trucks and, mm-hmm. all sorts of things, that even in the midst of that whirl mm-hmm. of noise, you actually chose and intended to discern different kind of birds. Mm-hmm. And we literally can learn to muffle out, mm-hmm. to quiet out mm-hmm. all the other noise. Mm-hmm. We can do that in our homes. Mm-hmm. We can do that at work, mm-hmm. And it's a vital skill right now because, my goodness,
it's a noisy world.
Well, it's a noisy world, mm-hmm. number one. But also, despite the exquisite beauty mm-hmm. in the world right now, what most often gets focused on is all of the chaos.
Right. And the negatives.
Mm-hmm. Right? And we see that. Mm-hmm. I was blown away by the Global Workforce 2022 Gallup data mm-hmm. this year. And it was saying that 19% of employees are miserable. That's a lot. That's almost 1 out of 5. 21% are engaged. Only 33% think they're thriving in their well-being. $7 trillion in lost productivity. I mean, that is a wake-up call also for our companies, our leaders, to say many people are in a search right now. And I think business has got the greatest platform. I always say that. I think business is the largest living organism alive. There's nothing business doesn't touch. Right. The land, the air, us people, the creatures, and all of us are in a business ecosystem. Some of us own a business, some of us work for a business, but at minimum, we all shop for businesses.
Right.
So what a phenomenal opportunity for leaders who touch all these employees' lives to learn how to get reacquainted with parts of their own selves they've lost away, to tap into their own.
Yeah, because when they've done that, it filters down.
Absolutely. And they can create the conditions for their employees to have a much different experience where they're truly also seen as, valuable geniuses who might have the next idea to shift a process or create a new product or whatever it might be. There's such immense opportunity in that landscape.
Right. I was just thinking, wouldn't it be cool if, a business every day would say, okay, the next 5 minutes, it's quiet. No phone calls, no talking, and we did that in kindergarten, right? We took nap time and then we stopped. We only did it through kindergarten. But just think if they said, okay, 2 to 2:05 is quiet time. Nobody takes calls. Nobody does anything. You sit at your desk and you just are quiet. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. It would recharge everybody's batteries to be able to go through the rest of the day. But of course, no business is going to do that. Heaven forbid that they not answer the phone.
Well, hopefully something here will inspire that. Because here's the deal. When my clients come to me, they're in back to back meetings.
Right.
And when we're in back-to-back meetings, and I remember that well, we are responding from known data. We're often regurgitating similar stuff over and over and over again. And people are moving only from the conditioned mind, from what's proven, from what's known. If we actually, and I've got practices in the book where you decrease the meeting time and you give people time on their own. We could do the 5-minute break of recharging, but separately teach them how to tap into their inner genius.
Right.
Then come back for a meeting where we might have new solutions, new ideas, new stuff coming in. I just think that how many work today in this back-to-back meeting way, and then they can't even start working, if you will, until way after business hours. That's an underpinning to the kind of low engagement, the miserable, this isn't how I want to set up my, my life or sell my soul to work. Like other things actually matter.
Well, and just think if that's how we started every meeting. And I was just thinking of this as a speaker. What if we started every one of them with, okay, we're going to have 2 minutes of silence before we start the meeting, the presentation, the whatever, to get everybody focused on what's here, so put your phones down, don't talk to the person next to you, just quiet. And of course, what you're going to hear is giggle, 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 because it makes people uncomfortable, right? Just like we were in kindergarten, I was always the one being told, put your head down, but yeah, so I'm going to challenge anybody who's running meetings or someone, who is like me, who is a speaker, to at the start of your presentation, we're going to take a little couple, just a minute or two, we're going to focus, and then we're going to go forward and just see what happens. And I'm guessing a lot of times the people that put their phones down won't pick them back up because they're thinking, okay, I'm here for this, whatever this is. But yeah, it's so you quiet that noise. Let's stop thinking about the 500 emails that we still have to answer. And, oh, there's a text that came in, and where are my kids? Just a little bit of time of quiet.
Yeah. I do every session, we have the same kind of structure. What we do within the session is wildly different for everyone. But as a part of the structure, every time I teach them a centering practice, because sometimes, and I know this from being an old CBT therapist, it's hard for us to take command of that narrative. It's been, well practiced and well rehearsed. So I got to teach them how to somatically come into their body and do somatic practices. Breath work is one of them, but there are tapping practices that I teach people, ways to actually, depending upon what they need to do with their energy. Sometimes people want to dial it down. They want to dial it in, and they just don't want to feel anxious or overwhelmed that they've got 900 things to do today, and they simply don't have the time. Other people are feeling mid-morning or mid-afternoon slump. So I teach them physical practices to dial up the energy, to increase, right? So we all need this mix. And our body, I always say our body's truth precedes our mind lies. And so I do it in every session, every team outing or team intensive that I lead, learning how to become the master of our own energy is vital.
Right. And it is, it's obviously, as you said, it's what works for that person. But every Sunday morning I watch CBS Sunday morning news. It's the only news program I watch because, like you said, there's just so much. But that for an hour and a half, they pretty much only do positive stories. So, I'm a PR person. It's not, if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so at the end of every one of their broadcasts, they do a nature something. So you've got, crickets, you've got water, you've got whatever. And they say, here's 2 minutes. And for 2 minutes, you're just supposed to watch whatever that is. And they always make it something that you can save on your, they post it on Facebook and other social media. So you can save it, you can share it, you can do whatever. But yeah, they do that. And they say, now go about your day. I mean, there's a reason why, like when we go to church, it often ends in a prayer. It's that quiet time before we go out into the world.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Jeanine, we only have about 5 minutes left. And we didn't even talk about why you wanted to come on the program, which is discussing the power of and. So that means we just have to do this again, right? Because this has been so much fun. And more importantly, I think it's very important for people, and because it is something that we get caught up in, that I have to do. Oh my gosh. Ugh. And then the blame game, and all of those various things. And so I think, it is very important what you do. So tell people more about, the excuse me, how people find you and what are the services that you provide.
Thank you for asking. You can find me at my website, JanineThompson.net. On Instagram _Jeanine Thompson _. You can find the book at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or even your local bookshop. Just tell them the title's 911 from your soul. And that way that allows you to support your local community as well via the Ingram catalog. And on my website, there are a number of service offerings. There's short-term targeted coachings. There's 6 to 8 month immersives. I happen to believe that we are really good at who we are today. Some of these habits are quite well developed, and it takes time to learn this beauty of the and, to learn how to tap into the full higher nature of who we are, and to augment it and integrate all those high practice proven techniques that we know also will help you lead and live your highest nature, whether that's at home with your family, with your friends, with your animals, in the business context. At the end of the day, we all want to know that who we were, how we showed up in the world, what we gave it our all, we gave it the best of who we are, and that it mattered.
Right.
It's meaningful.
Right.
So we can explore immersives. I do a lot of keynotes, team intensives, teaching groups of teams how to do these kind of activities together. And it's amazing not only does the engagement shift because people start feeling empowered and excited, how they work starts to shift, which is incredible.
Right. Right. And when we're reaching our full potential, everything we do is just going to be better. So yeah, that's why this is good for businesses to embrace this, because they're going to get more out of their employees. And so if they're encouraging their employees to do this, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And, listen, if somebody said, I felt fully alive, I'm excited, I'm on fire, I can't wait to do what I'm going to do today. There is no doubt when we feel fully alive, we're inspired, we're more creative, we're more expansive, we're more attuned to details and focus, kind of whatever our zone of contribution is. When we feel flat, overwhelmed, unsure, doesn't really make you come alive, there's no way that the business potential of the collective is being optimized.
Right. Right. Yeah. I just think of like an artist, if they're just their music, their painting, their whatever will be just right? The technical term, right? But when they feel that passion in their soul, that's where we get Picasso and Mozart and all of, and there were times where they went too, but when they were feeling their passion, that's when those works of art were created.
Absolutely. And think, what is business? It's really just a body of individual souls. If more and more and more of those souls, those humans were showing up not miserable, but excited, and they knew how they mattered and what they were doing was mattering. Holy wow, what we're capable of is truly
and it doesn't matter what your business does. I knew a manufacturing firm one time that it was pretty much do this type of thing. They had happy breaks.
Yeah, I love it. Right. And it's a vital, important role, right? Everybody needs to understand that your unique contribution, it all matters. Life doesn't work without all of the pieces in the puzzle.
Right. I love it. Well, oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. And as I said, we didn't even talk about why you wanted to come on the program. So we obviously have to have you on again. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
You are so much more than you know yourself to be. And I'd love for you to explore your own and how can you use the best of science and start exploring more of what is this unlimited nature of who I am? What happens if I'd be willing to play with some of these practices today? Because therein lies the true riches for you and for your life.
Oh my gosh, I love it. What a great way to end the program. I am Deb Creer. I have been having the best conversation with Jeanine Thompson. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.